Have you ever walked into a place where simply breathing felt like a violation, like your existence alone didn't belong there? Silver Tower, 41st floor, wasn't an office. It was a stage. Every person there played a part in a performance about status. Rolex watches were props, Louboutin heels were scripted lines, and condescending glances were the never-ending background music. Ava Collins stepped out of the elevator at 8:49 a.m. No high heels clicking on the marble. No Saint Laurent blazer. No Dior clutch. Just a plain white shirt with no label, a pair of worn-out flats, and in her hand a simple canvas tote, carrying an old stainless steel lunchbox. She didn't need anyone to hold the door. She walked straight to the pantry, an area usually reserved for the temps and the easily forgotten. Ava placed her lunchbox down, opened the lid. Steamed white rice, grilled chicken, and boiled vegetables prepared the night before. And in that moment, the air in the entire office shifted. Is that a lunchbox? Seriously. A woman's voice just loud enough for everyone to hear. It's giving food stamp aesthetic, another scoffed. This isn't a soup kitchen. Half-suppressed chuckles spread like perfume. Tom Ford in the air, a $20,000 espresso machine, hissing in the background. Ava said nothing. She pulled out a cheap napkin from home and gently wiped her hands. No glances, no reactions. But when she lifted her eyes, they didn't tremble. They didn't flinch. That was the gaze of someone who'd grown used to silence. Someone who had long learned what it meant to be judged by people who had no clue what real worth looked like. And they, those laughing at her, had no idea that in just a few hours, the woman they mocked would bring this gleaming empire to its knees from the inside out. Silver Tower wasn't just a company headquarters, it was a statement of power. From the glass walls reflecting the sunlight off Fifth Avenue to the $20,000 La Marzocco espresso machine, resting in a pantry lined with solid Italian marble, every detail was meticulously designed to create one clear message. If you're not worthy, you should vanish. Conference tables made of tempered glass, imported from Milan, ergonomic Herman Miller leather chairs, a ceiling-mounted HVAC system that adjusts to your heart rate, everything existed to uphold an illusion of elite perfection. But the most expensive thing in the room wasn't the furniture, it was the attitude. The cold eyes of those sitting around the table, draped in Saint Laurent blazers, clutching Virtu phones, pretending to talk numbers, while actually gauging who deserved to be in that room. Ava Collins was the only exception in that perfectly groomed ecosystem. She wore no gold watch, no niche fragrance, no glittering words. She spoke little and worked much, and that simplicity made her a flaw that could not be forgiven in a culture obsessed with artificial perfection. To them, she wasn't just different. She was a disturbing reminder that authenticity still existed and that drove them mad. She sat at her desk, not in a corner, not by the windows, but always the last light to go off. The most successful campaigns of the quarter all passed through her hands, revised line by line, comma by comma, yet the final reports always bore someone else's name. And she never asked for credit, never asked for fairness. To them, Ava was easy to overlook, bland, invisible. On the 41st floor, if you weren't invited to brunch in Soho or tagged in Friday night rooftop cocktail stories, you didn't exist. Ava had never been invited. And strangely enough, she never needed to be. And that made them despise her even more. Because she didn't want to belong to their world. And for people who survived on being seen, that was a threat. Every office has its own brand of violence. On the 41st floor of Silver Tower, people didn't yell, throw things, or curse. They were more refined, more precise. They killed with glances, with calculated indifference, and with sentences crafted like razor blades. And on a Monday morning, Ava Collins received what could only be called a weapon of mass humiliation. In that culture, a single sheet of A4 paper taped dead center on her computer screen. Bold font, centered, no sender's name, just one line, "Please stop eating in the pantry." The smell of poverty is disrupting the aesthetic. She read it in under 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds were enough to trigger a chain reaction, eyebrows raised, side eyes exchanged, and then almost in unison, smiles began to form. No one spoke up for her. No one removed the note. Someone walking past her desk tossed a pack of napkins onto her table and said, "In case your rustic lunch needs a napkin." Another, clutching a $14 latte, tilted her head slightly and murmured over her shoulder, "This isn't the break room at Walmart, Ava." The room echoed with scattered laughter, soft as popcorn popping, but each sound stung. Ava didn't cry. She didn't get angry. She simply removed the paper, folded it in half, and placed it into her drawer. No expression, no defense. But anyone standing close enough could sense one thing: she wasn't silent in the same way anymore. Something in her eyes had changed, quieter, deeper, and utterly unforgiving. From behind a glass wall, Cassandra, the creative director, squinted through her office. She's not just irrelevant anymore, she's becoming problematic. Someone replied casually, "Don't worry. People like her disappear on their own." But Cassandra had spent long enough in the performative world of surface-level feminism to know people like Ava, if not crushed early, would shatter the entire system in ways no one could predict. And they were right, but also wrong. In one crucial way, Ava didn't disappear. She stayed. She waited. And every laugh that rang out that day would eventually become a confession. The monthly strategy meeting took place in the 41st floor boardroom, a space where gold-plated laptops rested atop glossy walnut tables, where every statement was recorded and every glance carried the weight of promotion or elimination. Ava arrived early, her laptop already open, her deck neatly placed to the left, bolded notes and underlined headers, every data point triple-checked. She hadn't been invited to present, but she knew exactly what idea was about to be shown on screen because she was the one who wrote it. Cassandra entered on the dot, wearing a smoky blue Armani blazer dress, waves in her hair, a delicate Cartier bracelet glittering at her wrist. She smiled, as though about to bestow something grand, then began her presentation. "This campaign reflects my team's vision. A bold, strategic, and distinctive new direction." She spoke fluidly from the opening line to the brand positioning charts, every detail, exactly like the draft Ava had finalized at 2 a.m. 3 nights ago. Ava didn't interrupt, didn't flinch. She simply looked up at the screen, then at the colleagues around her, nodding in admiration, eyes lit with awe. When Cassandra wrapped up, the client's men, in tailored Xenia suits, rimless glasses, and shoes so polished they reflected light, applauded. One of them exclaimed, "Brilliant. This is fresh." Ava tilted her head slightly, resting her fingertip on the edge of her notepad. Then calmly, she raised her hand. "There's a point in slide 3 regarding Q2 consumer behavior that I think should—" "Thank you," Ava. Cassandra cut in, still smiling. "But this is a senior-level conversation." No one said a word. No one stepped in. Just a few quiet chuckles, the kind shared by people who understood exactly what was happening and were relieved it wasn't happening to them. Ava closed her notebook. No expression. But in that moment, even an audience merely watching through a screen could feel it, a deep, quiet, cutting sense of violation. More chilling than anger. Because nothing hurts more than watching something you created be handed to someone else, as if you never existed. That afternoon, while most of her co-workers were ordering sushi from Nobu or sipping detox juices on the 50th floor rooftop, Ava returned to her desk, as usual. She opened her faded stainless steel lunchbox, grilled chicken, boiled greens, plain rice. A quiet ritual in a world too loud with people who talk too much about themselves. But this time, something was waiting for her on the laptop screen. A single sheet of paper. No company logo. No signature. No recipient. Just one line centered on the page. Arial bold size 14. Stop eating in the pantry. The smell of poverty is ruining the atmosphere. Ava paused for a few seconds, not out of shock, but because of how meticulously they'd done it, as if it had been silently approved by a dozen people before being printed. Someone walked past her desk, pretending to adjust a Bluetooth speaker, and muttered, "Someone should really curate the scent palette around here." Another glanced at her lunchbox and nodded. Tupperware is not a brand, Ava. Laughter fluttered through the office, not loud, but pointed. Just loud enough to confirm one thing: the entire room had chosen a side. She removed the paper, folded it cleanly in half, and slipped it into her handbag. No one apologized. No one looked surprised. A few interns even giggled as if this were just another inside joke. One of them whispered, "She probably cooks with a campfire and washes dishes in a creek." Another replied, "That lunchbox screams Ohio." But what they didn't realize was that Ava hadn't broken. In her deep brown eyes, there were no tears, and no longer the same stillness. There was something sharper now, deeper, quiet in a way that sent chills. Not submission, but the stillness, just before a storm begins to spiral. From across the room, Cassandra looked on through the glass wall, smirking. If she can't handle a little heat, she's in the wrong building. But Cassandra didn't know she had just flipped the first domino in a chain reaction that would wipe clean every chair they thought they'd sit in forever. The elevator reserved for shareholders never stops on the 41st floor. It only activates when someone from Halberd Global Media's executive tier or a board member from the parent conglomerate Orion Capital makes a visit. And at exactly 2:16 p.m. that day, when the echoes of laughter over Ava's lunchbox hadn't fully died down, the elevator chimed. Everyone turned their heads. The doors slid open slowly, almost as if an invisible hand was prolonging the moment, forcing every breath in the room to catch. Standing in the center was a man in a navy-tailored suit. No tie, crisp white shirt, unbuttoned at the collar, eyes, unsmiling posture, so composed it drained the entire room of sound. Sebastian Blake, CEO of Orion Capital. The man Forbes once dubbed the Quiet Power. Net worth 11.3 billion, majority shareholder of Halberd Global Media and husband of Ava Collins. No one knew. No one had suspected. And that was exactly why, the moment he walked across the marble floor between the stunned rows of silent desks, became a thunderous declaration without a single word spoken. Each step he took was a verdict. Each glance was a sentence being handed down, written in silence. He stopped at Ava's desk. Gently he straightened the collar of her shirt, the same one they'd once mocked as ground-floor fashion disaster, and pulled from his inner jacket pocket a folded piece of paper. It wasn't a letter. It was a printout from the surveillance feed. The same familiar line, "Stop eating in the pantry. The smell of poverty is ruining the atmosphere." Sebastian looked up. His voice was low and steady, like the wind sliding past Manhattan skyscrapers. "Who wrote this?" No one answered, but everyone knew. And that silence, that trembling, complicit silence, was the clearest indictment of all. He scanned the room, eyes cutting through perfume and polished watches, straight to the core of the people hiding behind them. "You have 10 minutes to pack your things." Anyone involved, whether you wrote it, printed it past, it laughed at it, or stayed silent, will be blacklisted across the entire Orion Capital network. A breath was halted. Olivia lowered her latte. Ethan clenched the strap of his bag. Clara looked toward the emergency exit, but no one could speak. Sebastian added without raising his voice, "And in case anyone forgot, I'm the one in control here." He didn't have to shout, because from that height, no one dared lift their head. No alarm sounded. No one screamed. But within 10 minutes, the 41st floor of Silver Tower turned into an overturned chessboard. Those who once sat with their legs crossed in Herman Miller chairs, who toasted cocktails after hours with smug smiles, were now quietly packing their belongings into cardboard boxes. Every Starbucks mug, labeled with their names, every little office plant they once watered each morning like a badge of superiority, now lifted by trembling hands. Richard, the managing director, was the first to walk out, blazer still unbuttoned mouth, half open as if about to defend himself. Sebastian looked at him for 1 second. Just one. And no one heard Richard speak again. He was escorted straight to the elevator, no goodbyes. Cassandra, the one who had stolen Ava's work in front of clients, was suspended on the spot. Her employee badge deactivated. Internal accounts locked. Projects were reassigned without her input or presence. Ethan, the man who had interrupted Ava with smug grins and a Gucci tie, was demoted to proofreading email subject lines. From strategy to spell check. Olivia, with her Balenciaga dress and syrupy tone, was reassigned to the front desk, where she would now answer customer calls 8 hours a day without the right to hang up. Clara, the receptionist, who once ordered Ava to clean the pantry, was moved to the basement to manage the office supply counter. As for Vanessa and the interns who had mocked Ava's lunchbox, their contracts were terminated, effective immediately. No one was allowed to protest. The decisions had been made before the elevator even stopped. The list had been printed. The files are flagged. System access revoked. Those who once believed they were untouchable now looked around as if realizing for the first time they were never the main characters in this story. Meanwhile, Ava remained at her desk. Her lunchbox was closed. Her eyes didn't seek anyone's, but they didn't avoid them either. She didn't have to stand, didn't have to speak, because in that moment, the entire room understood exactly who was truly irreplaceable. When Sebastian turned to her, no one heard what he said. They only saw Ava nod softly, almost imperceptibly. And in that single quiet nod, the illusion that once cloaked the 41st floor disintegrated completely. No alarms, no shouting. But within 10 minutes, the 41st floor of Silver Tower was flipped like a chessboard, turned over in silence. The ones who used to cross their legs in Herman Miller chairs, who raised cocktail glasses with smug superiority after hours, were now quietly packing their belongings into cardboard boxes. Every personalized Starbucks cup, every office plant, once watered each morning like a ritual of pride, was now lifted with trembling hands. Richard, the managing director, was the first to go, blazer still unbuttoned, lips parting, as if to explain. Sebastian looked at him for 1 second. Just one. And no one heard Richard speak again. He was escorted straight to the elevator. No farewells. Cassandra, the one who claimed Ava's work in front of clients, was suspended on the spot. Her employee badge deactivated. Internal systems locked. Her project was reassigned to someone else without her input, without her knowledge. Ethan, the man who once interrupted Ava with smugness and a Gucci tie, was reassigned to proofreading marketing emails, from strategist to spell check. Olivia, in her Balenciaga dress and sugar-coated voice, was sent to the front desk, where she now had to answer customer calls 8 hours a day No hang-ups allowed. Clara, the receptionist, who once ordered Ava to clean the pantry, was transferred to the basement, in charge of office supplies. And Vanessa, along with the interns who mocked Ava's lunchbox, had their contracts terminated, effective immediately. No one had time to protest. The decisions were made long before the elevator ever opened. The list had been printed, files tagged, access revoked. The very people who once thought themselves untouchable now looked around as if realizing for the first time they were never the main characters in this story. Meanwhile, Ava remained at her desk. Her lunchbox was closed. Her gaze neither sought nor avoided anyone. She didn't need to stand. She didn't need to speak. Because in that moment, the entire floor knew exactly who could never be replaced. When Sebastian turned to her, no one heard what he said. They only saw Ava nod softly, silently. And in that moment, that single nod became the final period to everything false that had ever cloaked the 41st floor. Ava Collins's story isn't just a dramatic takedown at the top floors of the elite, it's a powerful reminder of what true worth looks like. Ava didn't fight back with words. She didn't need to raise her voice to claim justice. She chose silence, but a silence that was sharp, unshakable, and utterly undefeated. The lesson here isn't just about a woman being mocked for her lunchbox or her clothes. It's about how easily we, especially in today's world, judge others by appearances. We forget that sometimes the person most overlooked may be the one carrying the most dignity, grace, and quiet strength. Personally, I believe you don't have to be loud to prove your value. You just have to hold on to your character and never let the world's prejudice change who you are. In time, the truth always rises. And when it does, it speaks louder than anything else. If this story reminds you of someone who was misunderstood, who suffered in silence, or maybe even reminds you of yourself, leave a comment below. Share your story. You never know who might need to hear it. And don't forget to like, subscribe to Toch Story and hit the bell icon so you never miss the kind of stories that speak to the heart, where kindness, integrity, and humanity always have a place no one can take away.